Climate change has become humankind's latest threat. The rate at which the world is warming is alarming. Human activities have drastically affected climate patterns, hence resulting to change in climate, or simply climate change. This provoked the steering committee for the 2021 Annual Devolution Conference to have the conference theme as multi-level governance for climate action. Climate change is the periodic alternation of the Earth's climate caused by changes in the atmosphere and interaction between the atmosphere and several other geologic, chemical, biological and geographic variables within the Earth's system. It affects the Earth's ecosystem, including forest cover, water bodies, human activity and wildlife in far-reaching ways. According to Vihiga Governor Dr. Wilbur Otichilo, who is also the chair of the Climate Change and Environment Committee at the Council of Governors, humankind is to blame for the global warming.
From industrial period to date, we have been producing so much carbon dioxide, and this carbon dioxide is going into the atmosphere. It reaches a level up in the atmosphere where it forms a layer. It cannot go further. So it forms a layer which is like a blanket, and that's why it's called greenhouse. Greenhouse, when heat comes, when the heat of the sun gets into the greenhouse, it does not go back. That's why if we enter in a greenhouse, it's very hot. In this case, when the carbon dioxide forms a layer above the planet, the Earth, in the atmosphere, when sun rays from the sun come down, just the way you see the sun now, this heat, when it comes down, is supposed to go back into the outer atmosphere. But now with this layer of carbon dioxide and other gases like nitrous oxide, sulfur dioxide, because they all come from this coal and fossil, this blanket does not allow or heat to go back. So the heat is retained. And that's what has started the warming. That's what is called now global warming of the Earth.
According to the climate change guru, carbon dioxide, among other greenhouse gases, occurs naturally, but human activities are increasing the concentration of some of them in the atmosphere.
Climate change has been induced by mankind. It is our activities as human beings in the process of doing production and survival that we have put systems in place that are generating so much carbon dioxide that can be absorbed in our oceans, can be absorbed by our forests and green plants.
So climate change has disastrously transformed the way people live, causing floods in places like the Lake region and droughts in the northeastern area, hence water shortages and making it harder to produce food. Global warming has also increased insects like locusts and fall armyworms, resulting into reduced farm yields. Some regions could become dangerously hot and others uninhabitable because of the rising sea levels. Under the 2015 Paris Agreement, it was set how as nations, Kenya included, will decrease carbon emission. 2020 was the year countries were expected to present improved climate plans to UN climate change as part of a ratchet mechanism to meet the Accord's goals. In Vihiga County, restoration of forests like Maragoli Hills and Kibiri is ongoing. So far, more than 60,000 seedlings have been planted on a 50 hectare of Maragoli Hills. More than 1 million tree seedlings have been planted in the entire county. In a fight against global warming,
unajua mlima wa Maragoli ni ile yenye tunaita kwa kimombo water towers.
Vihiga County is determined to do more than just plant trees, but also grow forests as part of climate change action. The county government of Vihiga is also finalizing the Vihiga Cluster Water Project, which has embraced solar technology as a way of promoting the use of green energy.
The water projects are fully solarized to ensure low energy demand and to just reduce the carbon footprint of our water supply projects.
The moment we inaugurate this project is going to serve more than 250,000 people.
Carbon emissions are predominant in global warming. To reduce their rates of emissions, the county government of Vihiga has also constructed and rehabilitated its roads for effective and efficient transport and communication.
Mkiona barabara, mkiona malalamishi yote, pigeni simu, useme. Na tutasaidiana na miradi itakuwa mzuri. Hii mwaka inakuja tutafanya zaidi, tukishirikiana nyinyi.
Moreover, the county government of Vihiga, through the initiative of Governor Otichilo, has distributed thousands of bamboo seedlings to various farmers and institutions to be grown in order to protect water reservoirs.
So I encourage people who live next to the stream at least to plant even bamboo. Do not plant eucalyptus trees, because if you do, they consume a lot of water and we may end up having rivers dry. And then now we shall lack. We are also protecting the springs where the source of water. So where there are springs, we are putting a lot of emphasis. We are planting bamboo, because bamboo is very good when it comes to water conservation.
To mitigate challenges on food security as a result of climate change, the county government of Vihiga constructed Mwitoko Fish Hatchery and Aquaculture Center, which trains farmers on fish farming and also produces fish fingerlings that it sells to farmers at a subsidized cost. The county government of Vihiga has also distributed dairy cows to farmers to boost agribusiness.
Kaunti yetu imetusaidia sana, imetuita siku hii ya leo hapa kwa Mbaya ili tuweze kuchukua ng'ombe. Tuko na furaha kuu sana, kwa maana tutafaidika sisi kama widows, tusomeshe watoto, tupate mbolea.
Banana aggregation centers have been set up to provide ready market and produce to farmers and consumers consecutively. Climate change presents unique challenges for urban areas, given their special demographic and infrastructural characteristics. To prevent some of these challenges, the county government of Vihiga, through the Department of Lands, has constructed modern urban drainage infrastructure in Mbale and major towns in order to reduce urban floods. Acknowledging the unique economic challenges presented by climate change, the county government has also invested in high-mass floodlights to increase the number of hours the retail businesses in these areas can operate. Experts observe that climate change has a negative impact on human health. This is the reason the county administration has implemented the massive malaria awareness campaigns and distributed mosquito nets to the most vulnerable. In readiness to deal with the expected increase in cases of respiratory diseases as a result of climate change, the county government of Vihiga has invested in an oxygen plant and a 5-bed ICU facility to handle extreme cases.
Haya, sasa nachukua nafasi hii kufungua hili jengo kirasmi ili watoto wetu.
To protect early childhood development education children and teachers from adverse weather conditions, the county government of Vihiga constructed 134 ECDE classrooms, recognizing that the poor who are most vulnerable to climate change are less likely to afford education for their children, hence perpetuating a state of a vicious cycle of poverty and climate change vulnerability. The county government has put in place an annual scholarship program for bright, needy students for secondary schools.
Nilikuwa na shida nyingi sana. Kaambia mama wangu sikufe moyo. Niliposikia hii scholarship ya Otichilo iko, nilimuhimiza nikamwambia jaza. Mungu yuko atakukumbuka, jaza. Alipojaza kweli mafanikio yalikuwa. Nilifurahia sana.
Has bursary programs targeting the most vulnerable and is equipping skills through the Technical, Vocational and Educational Training TVET at subsidized cost. Vihiga is the first county to put in place Climate Change Fund Act that provide the overall framework for climate change governance. It is also among counties that have benefited from a grant from World Bank to fight climate change.
But mainly now, 87 counties are qualified.
Or the rest are yet to qualify?
The rest are yet to qualify. And then kuna shughuli ya kuestablish hizi ward committees.
Structures include the County Climate Change Steering Committee, which provides the strategic leadership for matters of climate change and is chaired by the governor himself.
The main function of the steering committee is to give a strategic direction on climate change governance, a climate change directorate and a county climate change planning committee as the lead technical agencies for coordinating and implementing climate actions. And ward-level climate change planning committees have been established to provide a platform for citizen participation in climate change governance. All these structures are anchored on and guided by the Vihiga Climate Change Policy, Vihiga County Regulations and Vihiga County Climate Change Fund Act 2019. These efforts are geared towards attaining climate change resilience in the county as espoused by Sustainable Development 13 of the United Nations.
3 years ago, there was nothing on climate change in Vihiga County. Totally nothing. Nobody knew anything about climate change. There was no act in place and there was no policy in place. There were no legislations in place and nobody was mainstreaming matters on climate change at the county level. And 3 years now, I want to say that we have an act, we have the policy, we have the legislations, and the matters of climate change, we began to operationalize them. All this is because of the initiative of His Excellency, the Governor of Vihiga County, Dr. Wilbur Otichilo, who is also the Chairman of the Council of Governors in charge of climate change.
Recently, more than 25,000 delegates met in Glasgow in the United Kingdom for the 26th United Nations Climate Change Conference of the parties commonly known as COP26, and through her lead negotiators including Vihiga County Governor Dr. Wilbur Otichilo, Kenya is set to receive 16 billion shillings, with each county receiving 10 million shillings to fight climate change. At the COP19, a lot more pledges on cutting carbon emissions were made, and many countries including Kenya pledged to be net zero by 2050, with the world's heat hitting 2.4 degrees Celsius. China, United States of America, India and Saudi Arabia are among the notorious polluters of carbon emissions. Countries were called to review the 2030 targets, rework their climate change plans formerly known as nationally determined contributions, and resubmit them by November 2022 when the world meets for another round of climate negotiations in Egypt. Vihiga, being the first county government to have a modern geospatial information system GIS laboratory, has incorporated it in the fight against global warming. GIS technology may be used to assess current and future climate change risks and vulnerabilities, as well as plan and carry out adaptation activities. This technology can be used to identify atmospheric processes that contribute to global warming. Vihiga has attracted more than 16 counties that want to establish a GIS laboratory for benchmarking.
We purposely came and traveled all the way from Wajir to come benchmark on the GIS system that has been set up in Vihiga. When you are doing a benchmarking visit, you benchmark with the best. So we came to benchmark with Vihiga County because it is the best when it comes to GIS. And we are glad that they have already mainstreamed and are using in both their planning and decision making. That is also our intent, to learn what they have already done and do the same, replicate the same in Wajir.
Climate change pundit Dr. Otichilo, who is also a space scientist, calls for the implementation of the Climate Change Bill in 2016 that was to be a beam of light in the quest of saving Mother Nature from more carbon emissions. But according to him, there is little progress on that. The bill seeks to put more stringent measures to ensure industry comply with the use of sustainable energy solutions like green energy.
I'm calling upon the Kenya Climate Change Working Group and all the civil societies that are here. Can you please sit down and make a decision and choose whoever is your representative that you want to be represented in that council, so that you can forward the name to the president and the president can then constitute that council and make it operational.
With the county, country and the world at large experiencing climate change effects like landslides, floods, food insecurity and drought, human beings ought to look at its activities, including carbon emissions.